Good morning. I don't know what it's like where you are, but here in Ozark, the heat is breaking. Be in the 80s today and tomorrow, and then in the 70s all next week, with nights ranging from the low 60s all the way down into the mid 50s. Uh, the heat is going to break. And we're so I'm thrilled. Believe me, I'm thrilled. We had a great time last night at Souls Harbor. Jim Collins and I went down, and he sang a bunch of songs, and I played a few, and then I preached miraculously, and the Lord blessed me, and I hope He blessed the people there. Then we went to Chick-fil-A, which is not my favorite place because I know I have weird taste, but I think like the Popeyes chicken sandwich is like a lot better. It's just a difference in the way they make their chicken, but uh, it's great. I've eaten a ton of it because every time there's some kind of meeting or something, they order in Chick-fil-A, so I don't have a problem with it. But I discovered last night my friend Jim bought my supper, and I did not know there was anything grilled at Chick-fil-A. I thought everything was deep fried. But indeed, they have salads and they have a grilled menu. And I just had the plain grilled chicken sandwich, lettuce, tomato, bun. I added mayo, one packet of mayo, but 380 calories, and it filled me up. Of course, as I get older, it doesn't take as much to fill me up, and it was very good, and it was exceptionally good. And next time I go back to Chick-fil-A, I will order that. Chapter 32 of the book of Isaiah. We've been in here several days. We'll be in here 2 or 3 more days at least 2 more days. Behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and princes shall rule in judgment. And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a cover from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. Now, they had a partial fulfillment of this when God turned away the Assyrian attack in 712 BC on Jerusalem. They experienced this and had certainly uh, a short-term reprieve, but the long-term fulfillment of this comes, of course, in the Messianic kingdom of the Lord Jesus Christ, when He will reign on this earth for 1,000 years. Now, I'm not prepared to go into this today. I will teach this when I teach the book of Revelation. But I want to make one thing clear. I talk about the kingdom, the kingdom, the kingdom, the kingdom, and about and we teach Revelation. We're faithful, and we all get to Revelation. We talk about the beast, and we talk about the kingdom of after the battle of Armageddon, how the kingdom of Christ will reign upon the earth, and it will. Good morning, Charles. And then we know that Satan has been bound in a chain in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. And that's the length of the Messianic kingdom, of that phase of it. But so many of my friends think that the kingdom's only going to last for 1,000 years, and then uh, it's going to be this big blow up in another war with Satan, and we just barely survive. It's not going to be like that at all. Matter of fact, Satan's little season at the end of the 1,000 years of the reign of Christ, and his followers as rule with him as kings and priests upon the earth. It won't actually be a war. It'll be just like a protest. It'll be like a bunch of those dirty socialists that didn't bathe and didn't, went to the bathroom in the street. That like Occupy Wall Street. That's what it's going to be like. And he's just going to wipe them all out. That's going to be the end of it. He's going to throw Satan in the lake of fire. Then the final judgment comes and the kingdom continues. But it will always be there. It will go through some changes, as we've talked about, toward the eternal state. Good morning, Gayla, my dear sister. But the kingdom never stops. Ever. In chapter 2, of Daniel, when he talks about the defeat of the beast, the great fourth beast, which will be a revived Roman Empire. Barbara, God bless you. Kevin, God bless you. We seem to think of these as individual things, but no, the kingdom is, once he comes, the kingdom is going to stand forever. And this is promised when this last kingdom is defeated. When the very last kingdom is defeated. At the battle of Armageddon. Not later, 1,000 years later. Because there's no kingdom coming against the Lord at the end of 1,000 years. It's basically Satan leading a protest like a bunch of anti-nukers outside a gate with signs and screams. That's all it's going to be. It won't amount to much. No Christian will die. No mortal in that peaceable kingdom will die in that incident. God is going to destroy these protesters with a fire that proceedeth out of heaven. Now, after the battle of Armageddon comes the setting up of Christ's kingdom on earth. Now, there will be changes. There will be differences as we go throughout eternity, as explained in Revelation 21 and 22. But I want you to get this in your head, that once God destroys all the armies gathered against the Lord and against his Christ at the battle of Armageddon, there won't be no more wars. Ever. This little season of Satan is nothing but a protest. Like a bunch of hippies outside Bank of America in 1968. That's all it is. Run them off. That's all it is. Verse 44, chapter 2 of Daniel. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom. Upon the defeat of those kings. We read all about it in Revelation 19. Which shall never be destroyed. Destroyed, it won't even be in doubt. Just look here. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. In other words, nobody's going to take any control of any of it. God bless you, Chris. But it shall break in pieces and consume all these nations, all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Forever. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all the kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. This is where the king reigns in righteousness, verse 1, Isaiah chapter 32. Not for 1,000 years only, but forever. His kingdom shall stand forever. I put more poetically, probably, in Isaiah 9, are those verses familiar to us. It says, for unto us a child is born, for unto us a son is given, Isaiah 9:6. And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. And of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end. It shall stand forever. Upon the throne of David, which will last forever. God promised Samuel. God promised David in 2 Samuel that his throne would last forever. And it does so by Christ seated upon that throne. And that is when the king shall reign in righteousness in the context of our chapter. So Bible's held together with tape. I got Danny's favorite, my lovely Bible over here that Danny gave me with the goatskin cover. It's a beautiful Bible, but sometimes I can't find what I want because I'm used to this old Bible. So I kind of pull it over here and look at it. And he says, God makes a covenant with David. Now therefore shalt thou say unto my servant David. He's talking to Nathan the prophet. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I took thee from the sheepcote, from following the sheep to be ruler over my people, over Israel. And I was with thee whithersoever thou wentest, and have cut off all thine enemies out of thy sight, and have made thee a great name, like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more as before time. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused thee to rest from all thine enemies. Also the Lord telleth thee that he will make thee an house. And when thy days shall be fulfilled, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers. I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build an house for my name. Solomon did that. Solomon built the temple. And I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart from him. The chastisement is to get us into line and to bring us back on track and to encourage us to do the will of God. But my mercy shall not depart from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. And thine house, David's house, and thy kingdom, David's kingdom, shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. According to all these words and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, Isaiah 9:6. And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. and of the increase of his government and peace there should be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. Behold, Isaiah 32, verse 1, behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and princes rule in judgment. The man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, and as rivers of water in a dry place, the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. No end to his kingdom. When Jesus comes and defeats his enemies gathered against him and the Father, then he will set up that throne, and it will be the throne of his father David. Good morning, Charlie. And he will rule forever. And that throne will stand forever. And that king will stand forever. What part of forever don't we understand? You think that there's going to be another war with Satan at the end of 1,000 years? No, you're reading stuff into the verses that aren't there. When God says it'll stand forever, it'll stand forever. When God says there'll be no end to it, there'll be no end to it. Jesus is not going to jump up and run across the brook Kidron to flee Absalom like David did. No. Let me show you just how this will work. And I could start Revelation at any time, but we would be months before we got to this. I really don't believe we have months. I believe Jesus is coming soon. We do not have months. Days, maybe, weeks. Chapter 20 of Revelation. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. We've talked about this several times. Why? Because it's pertinent several times. And by repetition and rote is how we remember things. How do you remember Bible verses? By memorizing them, by saying them out loud, by stating the chapter and verse, by sitting down and writing them down in longhand, and then writing an analysis of that verse for your own personal edification. It's how you learn. That's why nobody knows anything nowadays. People are graduating high school that can't read at a third grade level. It's because they are no longer taught by rote and repetition. It must be line upon line, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. I don't believe there's any real education without the study of the Word of God. How would you know how anything works if you didn't study the Word of God? Chapter 20. And I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of a bottomless pit. It's directly after, the Battle of Armageddon. I ate that cabbage soup for breakfast. It's peeling the weight off of me. It fills me up. And it's low cal and low carb as far as vegetables go. I mean, there ain't no taters in it. And I love it. It perks me up. Okay. And I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Oh, but I don't think it's really 1,000 years. Well, it says 1,000 years 6 times here in 8 verses, so let's just see. And bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up and set a seal on him, that he should not deceive the nations no more, until the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. After that, he must be loosed for a little season. That's the little season that we're talking about. Not Little Caesar's little season. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them which were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither received his mark upon their foreheads, but in their hands, nor in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Look at them arthritic fingers pointed at my head. 3. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the what? The 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power. But they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and they shall reign with him. What? 1,000 years. That's 5. 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years, that's 6, are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. And fire came down from heaven. Fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. There ain't no war. There ain't no battle. It's like, hey, we want our rights. Bam! You know, I like living in a democracy. I like having a constitution. But in the world to come, there won't be no democracy. There won't be any voting. It's going to be a theocracy. It's going to be a monarchy. And the king is going to reign, and whatever he says, that's how it is. But you don't have to worry about it, because whatever Jesus says is right. And in our glorified bodies, which are raptured, 7 years at least before this happens, 1,007 years at least before this happens, we're going to think it's all good. We're going to say, true and righteous are thy judgments, O Lord. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night, forever and ever. Can I get a witness? See, in the eyes of them that see, verse 3, shall not be dim, and the ears of them that hear shall hearken, the heart also of the rash shall understand. And the tongue of the stammerer shall be ready to speak plainly. The vile person shall no more be called liberal, nor the churl said to be bountiful. For the vile person will speak villainy, and his heart will work iniquity, to practice hypocrisy, to utter error against the Lord, to make empty the soul of the hungry, and he will cause the drink of the thirsty to fail. The instruments also of the churl are evil. He deviseth wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh right. But the liberal deviseth liberal things. By liberal things shall he stand, by his liberality, by his charity, by his love, by his kindness, by his empathy. If you ever had an empty belly, when you see a hungry man, you know exactly how it feels, and it's easier for you to reach in your pocket and give him money to go to McDonald's. Will that solve the problems of the world? No. Will that solve his problems? Probably not. But if he dies tonight, he dies with a full belly. Now, in the name of the living Christ, could you do anything less? Wouldn't you want somebody to give you a hamburger if you was hungry? How many of you ever been hungry before? And I don't mean just ready for supper. I mean hungry, or you hadn't eaten for days. When you go like that, your clothes start to hang on you, even if you're still overweight. Oh, they hang on you like clothes on a scarecrow. because the metabolism, I don't know, it just kind of shuts down and nothing's working because you're not eating. And you smell food and your mouth waters, you salivate. But there comes a time when you don't eat for so many days and it goes into the second week, you haven't had anything to eat, that your head hurts all the time. But a funny thing happens. You can be on the street and get the whiff of food cooking out of a cafe. Of course, when you're living on the streets, you got to move from one place to another, or the cops will come and throw you in jail, or run you off, or beat you up, or something. But what happens is that after a week or so, going into the second week, maybe 10 days, 11 days with no food, but your head hurts all the time and things don't look right. You get like prism vision. There's like rainbows around lights. You're kind of dizzy. You start stumbling instead of walking. But this is the thing I wanted to point out. You be dying. You're starving to death already, Your body doesn't know it's dying yet. I mean, it takes quite a while to starve yourself to death. And as we all know, you can go a whole lot longer without food than you can water. Water's pretty easy to come by. Even if you have to go into a gas station bathroom and drink out of the faucet, you can get water in most places. But buying food, that's another thing. You smell food coming out of a cafe, or you walk by a fast food place, where it just seems to be pumping out the vents every time they open the door, and all those brown bags stuffed full of grease and bread, hot grease and bread. And normally it would smell so good and it would make your tummy do a little somersault. Oh, I'm fixing to eat. Feed me. After about the 10th day, that doesn't affect you anymore. You start to forget that you're hungry. It doesn't become important anymore. It's like your body decides it's going to die and leaves you alone. I don't want you to ever be there. See, the vile people, they make empty the soul of the hungry, and they cause the drink of the thirsty to fail. Today we pick up with verse 9. Rise up, ye women that are at ease. Now, I'm going to get probably comments from my lady friends and say, how come he's just talking to the women? Well, as you probably guessed, in that society, women did most of the work. The gathering of the food, the preparing of the food. Well, that job is pretty hard to do when there's no food. Remember, this chapter is a chapter that gives promises but also warnings. It gives blessings but also judgments. Rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear to my speech. And what he's saying here is you got everything you need right now. But next year, when the Assyrian army comes, you're going to be holed up. You're not going to have anything. The fields are going to go without being tended. The vineyards are going to go to weeds because you can't come out of the fort. You can't come out of the city to tend your business. Rise up, you women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear to my speech. Many days and years shall you be troubled. Now I have a friend that told me the exact Hebrew for this would be for many days more than just a year. For many days and years shall you be troubled, ye careless women. And they're not careless in their work. They're careless in the idea that they thought that it would always be the same, that tomorrow will be the same as today. that all I have to do is run the price cutter and I can have everything I need. Have you noticed how that's not true anymore? You go to Walmart, Price Cutter, Apple Market, Cash Saver, anywhere around Ozark here. Uh, what you'll find is that stuff that you used to buy all the time you can't get anymore. And you're looking at brands you never saw before and packaging that's different, sometimes with different ingredients. I have to be particular because we eat a lot of canned refried beans because Velda's favorite go-to meal is a bean and cheese burrito, but she can't eat onions, and almost all canned refried beans have onion in them. She's allergic to onion. Now, I like making my own refried beans. I like cooking the pot of beans, and then I like taking the juice and the beans and a little bit of lard in a cast iron skillet and mashing the beans with my spoon just as I go and get that paste going, and bubble it all up and put in salt, and it's just always good stuff. A little bit of cheese sprinkled on top. But because I travel and I'm working so hard with Ron, I'm not working hard. I mean, I'm working a lot. I'm not doing hard work, friends. I can't do real work anymore. I either stand in a corner where I can lean against a wall, or I sit on a chair or a piano bench. I play a few songs, maybe say a few appropriate words, but that's all I do. When we go to churches, I play a few songs and preach that Jesus is coming soon and he is not pleased, usually from whatever text Ron is using. When I go into churches by myself, I play a few more songs and I speak 15 minutes longer about Jesus and the fact that these are the last days and we need to be ready to go and we need to get other people ready to go. So I'm not working hard in that regard, but these women, they were doing their work. They weren't doing anything wrong. But then all of a sudden, there were no more fields. There were no more vineyards. And there was no grain to grind into meal. There was no meal to make into bread. Because of the siege, which would happen a year after Isaiah wrote this. He's saying, you're okay now, but a year from now, you're going to really be hurt. And of course, the long term, Isaiah is talking about the coming siege of the city of Jerusalem by Rabshakeh and his Assyrian army, which happens the next year. But the long term fulfillment is the Great Tribulation, the 7 years of hell on earth when the Antichrist will rule everything. And not only will the Jews not have any fields, he'll be hunting them down and be bounty on them. He'll try to kill every Jew on the world. He'll make Hitler look like an amateur. Hitler killed 1/3 of the Jews that were alive on the earth at the beginning of his regime. The Antichrist will kill 2/3 of the Jews that are alive on the earth at the beginning of his regime. And it will only last, a little over half as long as Hitler's. Hitler's lasted for 12 years. And we know that the Third Reich lasted, the 1,000-year Reich only lasted for 12 years. But we know the exact length of the Great Tribulation. 7 years. The first half is a time, a times, and a half a time. The second half is a time, and a half a times. 3.5 years. 7 years. It is the last week of Daniel. 70 weeks. Now, rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters, and give ear to my speech. No, Remember, he's not condemning them for being careless. They're doing their work right now, but they have the idea that nothing will change. Everything will be the same as tomorrow. They'll be able to go to the pantry. They'll be able to go to the larder. They'll be able to go to the barn. They'll be able to go to the field. They'll be able to go to the vineyard, and all will be well. They will be able to go to the well and draw water, and all will be well. Just like I think now I can just go to Price Cutter or Walmart and get what I need, but I can't anymore. What they do is they streamline, they get rid of things very often that I like buying, and then they're just not there anymore, and I have to settle for some other product or some other, maybe the same product in different packaging, whether I either have to pay more for less of it or a lot more for a lot more of it that I don't really need to buy. You know the trick, you know the drill, you've been there. So he's not calling them careless in their work. He's just saying, look, you're not using your head. You think it's just going to keep going on like this. And beloved, the world is saying that it's just going to keep going on just like this. The world is careless. Christians are careless. Blood-bought, born-again Christians do not realize that Jesus is coming at any minute. He could come today, and he will come someday. It's going to be very soon, because the signs we are seeing are not the signs of the rapture. There are no signs for the rapture. What we are seeing now are the signs of the great tribulation. And if we can see the signs of the tribulation, then how near must the rapture be? As Dr. Walvoord wrote, he said, when you start seeing the Christmas decorations, you know it's close to Thanksgiving. Good morning, Pastor Susie and Habaz. God bless both of you. So that's what he's saying. He's talking about them being careless because they think things are just going to continue the way they are. And they will until they don't. Rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall ye be troubled, ye careless women, for the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. Tremble, ye women that are at ease. Be troubled, ye careless ones. Strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins, the garments of mourning and of repentance. They shall lament for the teats. Milking the goat, milking the cow. Unless you do that, you don't have any cheese, you don't have any butter, you don't have any cream. They will lament for the teats, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine. Upon the land of my people shall come up thorns and briars, yea, upon the houses of joy in the joyous city. Because the palaces shall be forsaken, the multitude of the city shall be left, and the forts and towers shall be dens forever, and a joy of wild asses and a pasture of flocks, until the Spirit be poured out on us from above, from on high. Now, what this says is this had a partial fulfillment there in 713 and 712 BC. 712 was the height of the siege. Rabshakeh withdrew his army, because God killed 185,000 of them. He returned. He went and fought Egypt, and we don't know what happened to him after that, but Sennacherib the king returned to Nineveh, and his sons killed him. But the promise was made. It says the fields will be empty, everything will be wrong, but things would get better. It didn't last very long. Many days, which means more years than a day. More days than in a year. And it actually went for about 3 years. And God, it told him what to do about it. And said, when the army came, and God, when they were challenged by Rabshakeh to come out and surrender, and, King Hezekiah prayed, and God gave the answer to an answer to the king, and then he tells him that he is going to take care of Sennacherib. He is going to take care of Rabshakeh. And then he says that that he is going to restore them, but it's going to take 2 or 3 years because they've let everything go because of this pending war with the Assyrians. And chapter 19 of 2 Kings in verse 29, Isaiah is speaking for the Lord. The Lord says through Isaiah to King Hezekiah, and this shall be the sign unto thee, the sign that God is going to deliver you. You shall eat this year such things as grow themselves. Remember, they're talking about the fields and the vines and the water and all this stuff. It's all messed up. It's all dried up. So you shall eat this year of things that grow themselves, and in the second year that which springeth of the same. In the third year sow ye and reap and plant vineyards and eat the fruits thereof. And the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah shall yet again take root downward and bound fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Mount Zion. The zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do this. Someone take care of you. And that had a complete fulfillment during those 3 years after the Assyrian invasion. And so by 709 BC, they were pretty much back to normal in Judah. They were pretty much back to normal in Judah. There was a worse judgment and a longer fulfillment, but a fairly complete fulfillment after the Babylonian captivity. After 70 years in Babylon, many of the Jewish leaders returned to Judah to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, to build the walls, to hang the gates, and to start their society over again, to plant fields and vineyards. And they were fruitful, and they did multiply. And they came under the reign, influence of the good Medes and Persians, and they came, who was kind to them. King Cyrus was a Persian king. Darius was a Median king. And then for the Greeks, Alexander, and they really didn't have any trouble until the Seleucids in the reign of Antiochus Epiphanes came and invaded Jerusalem, desecrated the temple. But out of that, there rose up the Maccabean revolt. And for about 80 years, Jerusalem was 70 years. Jerusalem was an independent country. It was not under the influence of any foreign power until the days of Sulla, the dictator of Rome, the guy before Pompey, who was the guy before Julius Caesar. So there was a larger fulfillment after the 70-year captivity. But the biggest fulfillment is going to come during the millennial kingdom. And that's what we're talking about here. The first sentence of this chapter is, behold, a king shall reign in righteousness. No one ever has, and no one ever will until Christ sits on the throne of his father David. I love that. It says, upon the land of my people shall come up thorns and briars, yea, and all the houses of joy in this joyous city, because the palaces shall be forsaken, the multitude of the city shall be left, and forts and towers shall be for dens forever, and the joy of wild asses and the pasture of flocks, until, verse 15, until the Spirit be poured upon us from on high, and the wilderness be a fruitful field. And the fruitful field be counted for a forest. You know, we've talked about these things several times over the last few days. The desolate land is going to be a fruitful field. The field is going to be so productive, it's going to be thick as a forest. That's what a wheat field or a barley field will look like. The stand of grain is going to be so thick and so close together and so mighty, it's going to look like the woods. I think that's pretty cool. Don't see that every day. All right, we're going to wrap this up for today. And there's so much more to say about the kingdom, the parallels between this time. Remember, we're talking about blessings and we're talking about curses. We're talking about promises and we're talking about judgments. And chapters 32, 33, and 35. 34, as far as I can tell, is judgment only. So we will dive deep into that when we get there. God bless and keep you. I love you. Go to church tomorrow.